This is the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. Would you believe it? We're in the 10th show in this series, Changing the Image. And my, how the time flies. Many of you have followed this series of shows from the time we started it, and there are others of you that joined us in midstream in the series, and then there are others of you that are probably watching for the first time. I am Paula Nielsen, I am a transsexual, and I am an evangelist. And I am proud to say that I am a child of God. About 10 years ago, when I first started attending Metropolitan Community Church of Portland, when the work was just beginning, a lady visited the worship service one Sunday night and got up and spoke to the congregation about a new support group that she was starting in Portland, Oregon, called Parents of Gays. Since then, the Portland chapter of Parents of Gays has affiliated with the international organization Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays. And how well I remember that night 10 years ago when Ann spoke to the congregation as a parent of 3 girls who are lesbians, and offered her help to the parents of any of the gays and lesbians who were in the congregation that night. If your parents need someone to talk to, she offered to give her phone number where the parents of any of the gay people could call for emotional support. And I remember that night I thought, oh, where was this organization many years ago when my parents found out that I was gay? And I remember my mother discovering my sexuality as a fact, even though I'm sure she sort of suspected it or knew it all along, came as a very traumatic thing for her. And one of the things that my mother had to deal with and work through was, what are other people going to think to know that I have a son who is gay? And I've often thought, if she had someone like Ann Shepard that she could have talked to, it would have made the road a lot easier for her. With the help and the grace of God over the last several years, my mother has come to accept my sexuality and accept me as the person that God created me to be. Shortly after I saw Ann Shepard for the first time at Metropolitan Community Church of Portland, an article came out in the local newspaper on the front page of the Oregon Journal, one of the leading papers in Portland, Oregon at that time, that says, Portland parents learn to deal with gay children. And right on the front page of the local newspaper is Ann Shepard, the lady I told you about, who is my guest today with her daughter Susie, and Bill Shepard, Ann's husband, who is a prominent, respected Portland lawyer and has been practicing law in the Portland area for several years. And Ann Shepard and her daughter Susie are my honored guests on the show today. And when I say honored guests, I mean that exactly as I said it. I have worked with Susie Shepard, Ann's daughter, off and on in various political gay activist projects. Susie is currently involved in the Right to Privacy PAC Political Action Committee. And the Shepard family has been in the forefront of the news media, both in political struggles for gay and lesbian rights, as well as very actively involved in Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays. A wonderful newspaper article that came out in an alternative lifestyle newspaper not too long ago was the headline, Bill and Ann Shepard, pro-family, pro-gay. And the picture underneath is the whole family, and underneath the picture it says, hey, hey, what do you say? 3 out of 5 of our girls are gay. And tell us a little bit about this particular newspaper article. How did this picture come to be?
That picture was the result of a Far West Classic game, December 1978.
Mm-hmm.
And Bill and I and 4 of our daughters, the 5th was living in Chicago at that time, went to the game, and the only tickets I could get were right under the Oregon goal post. And we were yelling and making so much noise that the photographer came up and said, "Are you all Oregon graduates?" And most of them were. So they took this picture. It appeared on only one edition of the journal, but it's a great picture of us and 4/5 of the girls.
Mm-hmm. And in this article that I just referred to, pro-family, pro-gay, it mentions that there was a time when Susie, who is with us today, came to you and said, "Mom, I need to talk to you when the rest of the kids aren't around." Now, the average parent whose daughter would come and say that, "Mom, I need to talk to you in private," would automatically think, "Oh my goodness, she's pregnant." And that you did think. But you also said to yourself, she's either gay or she's pregnant. Tell us about that night, that time.
Or she's going to drop out of school.
Okay. Either gay, pregnant, or going to drop out of school. You thought that the news she was going to break to you had to be one of those things.
Right. And she was a senior in Oregon at that time. So, well, you tell about it, Susie, because it was you who's giving us the news.
What was the news you broke to your mother that night?
Well, first of all, when she asked me those 3 questions, we were taking dinner on. I had 2 plates full of food, and she said, either you're gay, you're dropping out of school, you're pregnant. I just about dropped those plates of food all over the floor. I just thought, how did you know? How did you know? And I had practiced this speech, Paula, for about 3 months, on the way to class, on the way home from class, falling asleep, in the shower. But what I knew was that we were all brought up very strong church family, that honesty had always been the thing, that's what God wanted us to do. There was never anything that we couldn't ask Mother and Dad. When they told us about the so-called facts of life, it was a very open thing, and they told us that a union between 2 people was at first a commitment to God, and then a celebration of 2 people intimately, physically. And so the focus has always been on God and on our relationship with Him, and then with the family and so on. And so I've always known that there was never anything I couldn't talk about with Mom and Dad, and we've always known that. And that was the way I went into this. And I sat down with them, and it really went just the way I'd rehearsed it. I said, "Mom and Dad, you've always brought us up to be open. This is a very important part of my life, and I want to share it with you." And when I said I'm lesbian, and then there was a pause, and I said...
And you shared this with both your mother and father
yes,
at the same time.
Yeah. We sat down at the dinner table after dinner, and our dinner company had left, and my younger sisters had gone to bed. And we sat down with a cup of coffee, and I said, "This is it." And Mother said, "Yes. That's what I thought you were going to tell us." And I said, "Now the next thing you need to know is it's not your fault. It's not a matter of fault." I said, "I don't know what causes it. I don't know what causes heterosexuality. And I really don't care what causes it, because I've always known it deep down in here. But I want you 2 to know it."
And as far back as you can remember, you've always known that you are.
Always, always. The high school dates were just a sham, but it was a show that we had to put on.
You did date boys in high school, just sort of because it was socially expected of you.
I did that, and in fact, I went to bed with quite a number of fellows in college, because I didn't know it was who we are inside. I thought it was a behavioral thing, and I thought if I went to bed with enough boys, that would turn me straight. I didn't know that it's who you are inside, not what your behaviors are.
Exactly.
And that's what makes me so mad about people who call it a sexual preference rather than orientation. I don't prefer being gay. It's simply who I am. Today I can't imagine being anybody other than who I am.
Exactly.
But no person in their right mind would choose to be called names, to have jokes told about them, or anything like that. And
so fired from your job, or kicked out of your house.
Exactly. So so preference is a real misnomer there. And actually, you know, you talked about alternative lifestyles. It's not a lifestyle. I've got a white-collar lifestyle. That's my lifestyle. I go to work at 8:30 and I'm done by 5:30. That's my lifestyle. There's a blue-collar lifestyle and a welfare lifestyle, but people, again, when you say lifestyle, it implies, I think, that there's a choice, and there's just not a choice. Mom and Dad didn't have any choice about being straight. That's just who they are.
Yes, and you're talking about lifestyle versus orientation, or preference versus orientation.
Right.
And lifestyle just as a pejorative term, the gay lifestyle. When there are as many different kinds of gay lifestyles, there are straight.
You bet.
Oh, definitely.